Thank you for tuning in to What is a Little Girl Supposed to Do? My name is Balinda Olive Beltran. I'm the host of What is a Little Girl Supposed to Do? Today, I have a guest on the show. She is amazing. Her name is, I'll let her say her name because I'm always messing it up.
Lẹwa Ubunifu.
Thank you, Lẹwa Ubunifu, for joining us today. She has a book entitled Caged and Locked. She's the only person in the world that have written a book dealing with circumstantial depression. This young lady is amazing. I met her I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I was at an event at Clark College in Vancouver, and she was one of the guest speakers. And when she spoke, I was in awe. I'm like, wait, I need her. I need her book. But she got away. That was 4 years ago, and I thought about her, quite often because I dealt with the same thing. I was diagnosed as being a paranoid schizophrenic in 1997. I was in and out of the mental hospitals for 10 years until 1989. The doctor that I was under the care in Portland said that I would never be able to function without this medication. But my doctor in Vancouver, Washington, believed in me, and he knew that I was not a paranoid schizophrenic. He said, Belinda, you just been going through a very stressful life. You've had a lot going on in your short time of being here on this planet. So we are going to make sure you get weaned off of this medicine. And I have been prescription drug free since 1989. So I understand my guess what she went through with the circumstantial depression that she's gone through. So she will introduce herself, give us a little bit about her background, and you'll love her. She's so precious, and she's so needed for the world to understand that this circumstantial depression, it happens to so many of us, and we don't even know it. So she'll talk.
Thank you, Miss Balinda. Okay, so my name is Lẹwa Ubunifu, and Lewa is Yoruba for beautiful, and Ubunifu is Swahili for creative. I published my book, Caged and Locked, My Personal Experience with Circumstantial Depression. I published it way back in 2018 when I was looking for resources on circumstantial depression, and I couldn't find any. There were no books published worldwide, and lots of articles, but no books. And so I decided to publish my own personal experience with this type of depression. I've had circumstantial depression for over 15 years. And circumstantial depression is supposed to be a short-term illness, but it can last for longer. And pretty much what circumstantial depression is a type of depression that you go through based on your circumstances. The difference between circumstantial depression and other types of depression is that most depressions have a chemical imbalance in the brain. And so it requires medication or things like that in order to stabilize the chemical imbalance. With circumstantial depression, there is no chemical imbalance. It's just primarily based on your circumstances. Yeah. So, if you go through one circumstance and you get out of that one and you go through another one, you can continue to have circumstantial depression based on the different circumstances that you go through. That's why I say it can last longer. So a little bit about my story. I guess I'll start from the beginning. I was born in 1982. All right. So I am in the middle between not the 90s, but not quite the 70s. So I'm right in the middle. And the first trauma that I ever really faced was my grandmother. I was named after her, and she died of breast cancer in 92. And when she died, I immediately blanked out a lot of stuff that happened before 1992. So I don't remember a lot of stuff.
So you were 10 years old when your grandmother passed?
Yes.
Okay.
I was 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes, I was
Wow.
10 years old. And she was like one of my best friends. I don't really remember a lot of stuff about her because of the trauma of her dying. But it was hard. And then shortly after that, the month before I turned 13, my sister, my brother, and we decided to run away from home because my mom was physically abusive. She used to tie us to beds and beat us with broomsticks. And we used to be locked in rooms and all kinds of stuff. So we decided that we were not going to take it anymore. And then on top of that, I was being beat up at school and all kinds of stuff there too. So it was kind of rough. I was also being sexually abused. I've been sexually abused since before I was 6 by many different people.
Before you were 6?
Since before I was 6.
Really?
Yes, by many different people.
Were they family members or strangers or people that friends of the family, or how did you run into these people?
I think all different kind of ways. Some of them were babysitters. So like a mother would have a child, and it was their child was a male or whatever. I was sexually molested by many different people. Some of them were babysitters. Some of them were husbands of babysitters. Some of them were friends of the family. All different kinds of different things. I do list them a little bit more in my book, but there's quite a bit of them. So the last one that kind of made me upset was there were 3 people living in our house at the time, and a mom and the sister of the mom, and then the the son of the sister. And I was sexually molested really bad by the son of the sister. And so he was 22 at the time, and I was 11 or 12, I believe. And then I was also sexually molested at a high school because I was delivering papers. And so I was sexually molested inside of the library of a high school, too.
By whom?
By the janitor. So I was always being sexually molested by somebody. I don't know why. But
now, where were you living at the time? What state or city?
So at the time I was in Hopewell, Virginia.
Okay.
So, and I was, I was in Hopewell, Virginia, and I was being sexually molested a lot at that time. But between 1982 and Hopewell, Virginia, I had been to Lawton, Oklahoma, Darmstadt Germany, and Richmond, Virginia. I've been to a lot of places.
Oh, wow.
My mom was in the military at the time. So
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So we got put in social services custody. My sister went with me at the beginning, and my brother, he went somewhere else. And then my sister, she was always the one who would stick up for me when people would beat me up and stuff. And when they saw that, they separated my sister and put her with my brother. So
your sister was older than you?
No, I'm the oldest.
Oh, you're the oldest.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm the
All
oldest.
right. Wow.
And so I ended up having to fight for myself. But at the time, I became a ragdolled some. So I was sexually abused a lot more in social service custody than I was outside of social service custody. People would just come up and just sexually molest me, and they didn't care. So while I was in social service custody.
At home, or, where was this?
So I had different group homes that I went to. They put me in, the first place they put me in was a group home. And then they moved me from there and put me in like another group home. I've been in shelters. I've been in mental institutions. I've been in Central State hospitals, all different kind of places that I was put into.
And how old were you at that time?
So
Around?
in social service custody, I was 13 to 18.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also put me in behavioral health centers, and I was also put in they tried to put me in a couple of foster homes, but I was sexually molested in those too. So,
oh my goodness.
And then by the age of 13, social services put in my chart that I was considered jailbait.
Jailbait?
Yes. So what jailbait is any child who seduces a grown man and the grown man has sex with that child, the child is considered jailbait, which means that the child enticed the adult. So, and it doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman too, but it's just a child who entices an adult to have sex with them. So they said that it was my fault and that I'm the one who initiated.
Now, how old was the man, approximately?
So they range from 22 all the way to, I think the oldest one was 47, I believe, because there was many different ones. So,
okay. Now, did the men ever get in trouble? Or, I mean,
so I remember one mental institution I was in, and the guy, he was very popular staff, and I told on him. I didn't find out that he got in trouble until after they moved me away from there, because they said I lied and I got jumped and stuff. And so they moved me to a Central State hospital, and then one of the girls who was actually at that hospital came and told me that he had gotten fired because he did it to somebody else. So, but when I was there, I was considered the liar. So, yeah. But I wasn't the first one he had did it to in the first place. I already knew of a lot of the girls he had been doing it to. So, and for confidentiality reasons, I can't really disclose certain.
I understand.
So,
I understand.
Yeah. But so yeah, and I think that was the oldest one. And actually, correction, the youngest one was actually 18 when I was 13. So, and that was at the first group home I went to. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it was life in social service custody was hugely, a lot of sexual molestation, a lot of being beaten up. I got beat up for all kinds of reasons. I got jumped in the bathroom, and so.
Well, were this foster care, or was it group homes, or a variety of all of it?
Well, majority of the places where I got jumped were all in group homes.
Wow. By the people, by the other children that was there?
Yes, by the other children that was there.
And there was no protection? What would the...
So I can tell you about one instance which has stuck with me ever since. I was in a group home, and, it was actually more of a behavioral health center. So, and I wanted to try to kill myself. So I decided to use a safety pin to open up my vein, and I filled up I think 2 sheets of blood.
Vein in your arm?
Yes, a vein in my arm. I had dug into my skin and opened up my vein. And so the staff member came in, and at the time I had braids. She took me by my braids, smashed my face in my blood, and dragged me down the hall by my hair and threw me in a timeout room. So these are things that was happening while in behavioral health center and mental institutions. Also, I never did go to school. So the last grade I completed was 3 months of 7th grade. And then what they do inside of social service custody, if you're not in a foster home, is that they give you a book and they tell you to do work out of it. And then when you're finished, they give you an A. That's it. So you don't really go to school. And you don't even know if your work is right or not. You just you just do whatever. So, but that was 13 to 18. And then social services, they took me out of the last place that I was in because I was getting too old. And they tried to put me in a shelter. I ended up getting pregnant by a convicted sexual offender. So social services put me in a hotel room, made me do a pregnancy test. But then, long story short, I ended up going to jail because the guy who I got pregnant by, he lied and said I stole his car. So I had to wait in jail for a whole month just for a court date. But while I was in jail, social services emancipated me. So when I got out of jail, I was pregnant, homeless, and I had nowhere to go. So, and that was 3 months after I turned 18. So
what happened to the man that did this to you?
Actually, when our daughter was 7 years old, he actually ended up getting custody of her because he had more money than me, and I was homeless at the time with her. So he actually ended up raising her from 7 years old on up. So even though he's on the National Sex Offender Registry list. So
do you have any communication with her?
I do. I still talk to her.
And
yes.
how is she doing?
She's doing good, actually. She's in college. And yeah, she has both copies of my books. So
good.
Yeah, so I still talk to her.
Good.
That was a hard road, but I still talk to her.
So she's an adult now?
Yeah, she's an adult. She would be, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 21. She's 21 now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
man.
I primarily wanted to give her a copy of my book, so I wanted her to hear my side, you know.
Good.
So,
wow.
But yeah, she was raised by her father, so that was hard.
Yes.
So,
yes.
but
yes,
yeah,
man.
but at the time when I was pregnant with her, you know, I didn't have nowhere to go. You know, social services emancipated me on the streets, and you know, I lived on the bus stop benches while pregnant.
Wow.
So.
And what state were you living in?
Virginia.
Wow.
So.
Man.
Yeah.
You are a survivor. You are a survivor, and thank you very much for writing that book, Caged and Locked. I mean, you've been through a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and you're an amazing young woman. And I appreciate you coming on to the show and talking about this, because we have so many people that is suffering now from circumstantial depression. But thank you very much for sharing your story. Ooh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
It brings tears to my eye and just makes my heart melt, because it's like, whoa.
So to sum up the rest of it is just like, I have 2 children now. My oldest one, you guys know, is born of, you know, by a convicted sexual offender. My youngest one was born out of rape. And so I think one of the biggest reasons why at the time I was trying to write this book is to gain awareness to other people, because there was no resources out there. There really isn't a lot of resources on circumstantial depression.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
people like, oh, you have group therapy or whatever, but I got a lot of heat from having a child out of rape. So,
wow. Heat from who?
A lot of different people. Some people felt like, oh, you shouldn't have had a child out of rape, and other people were like, well, it was both sides. I got both sides of it, both sides of the coin. So, but then my daughter, she started going through a lot of different, well, my oldest one went through hell too, because she was born on Halloween. So they called her evil. So, and then my youngest one, she, going through depression, because I don't sugarcoat anything for my kids. So I made her sure she knew that she was born out of rape.
Yes.
And for a while, her father, she tried to keep in contact with her father, but he always threatened her and stuff like that. So I ended up getting a restraining order against him. So, yeah. And so in my book, I go through different themes, but I don't call the themes what they are. For instance, the chapter that I wrote on my mother, that title is called "I Brought You in This World, I'll Take You Out."
Man.
So I didn't want it to just be like, oh yeah, biological mother or sexual abuse or this kind of thing. I wanted it to be something, a title that I felt like this is what I feel about the subject.
Man.
So I go through all of the things in this book, and I also even go through my coping skills, which is the chapter called Dealing with Roller Coasters. So
okay, man. Wow, that's a lot. And you are amazing. And I'm so happy, like I said, that you're here to share with the world what you have gone through. And we know a lot of other people have gone through a lot of things that they just want to forget about it. And then they wonder why people use drugs, why people drink alcohol, why they do the things that they do. They're trying to forget about their pain and the things that they've gone through. And they're just looking for a way out. They're just trying to feel how to be normal. I mean, these are things that you have to live with because you lived it. You experienced it. It wasn't no hearsay. It's what you actually dealt with. And thank you again. You are amazing. And so how is your daughter, the one, how old is she, the one that...
was born at a rate?
Yes.
She just turned 13, so
Wow.
that, yeah.
Man. And how is she doing?
So she's going through her own circumstantial depression and trauma due to the public school districts and how racist and discriminatory they are and biased. So they do a lot of things in the public school districts that you would like, if you did that in a job, like you guys would be fired, but they're allowed to do it to kids. So, she's dealing with her own trauma. So, but I make sure I inspire her. I buy her like blankets and posters that all have like powerful Black girl affirmations on it, and I try to make sure I show her how blessed she is. She just had a big birthday party that I didn't pay for, thank God. But
nice,
so she was,
nice.
so she was really appreciative of that. She's at a new school this year, and new school district, new school, and we've been working diligently trying to, educate and teach teachers and trying to get that whole thing situated. And so she's been able to make some friends. But she still has that trust factor because of her past trauma with schools and teachers and stuff. So, so she has her own little circumstantial depression she's dealing with, and and especially with biases, it's with circumstantial depression, you have to remove yourself from the situation in order for you to find some kind of relief. Right, in order for you to get better.
Yes.
But one thing that we find with microaggressions, biases, systemic racism, you can't just uproot yourself and move yourself out of those situations. Right. So it's important with circumstantial depression that you actually find good coping skills in order to deal with your environment, a good support system. And most people don't. A lot of people don't have support systems.
You're right.
So trying to find those times when, okay, I just need to be by myself, or I just need to have a self-care day, or I just need to just take care of my mental health for today.
Yes.
Because that stuff builds up.
Yes.
And sooner or later it's going to come out one way or the other.
Yes, yes. And it remind me of a volcano, a mountain. A mountain that can be quiet for a long time, just like Mount St. Helens. I don't know if you were here when Mount St. Helens erupted.
No.
Yes.
I've heard about it, though.
Yes, Mount St. Helens erupted May 18th, 1980. I lived in Portland, Oregon. It was on the weekend, I believe. But mountains, that's what we are like when we're under pressure. You're under pressure, you're under pressure, you're under pressure, and it's just keep building up. But eventually, there's no more room for that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we erupt. We just lose it, say, I'm done, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And people lose their mind. And that's like an eruption, the mountain going up. It couldn't take no more, all that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we are as people. Like you say, we need a place of serenity. We need to be able to meditate, have our quiet time, just to be able to get away and, have your mind where your nature or wherever may want to be. But I know when I was going through what I went through, I would love going to the beach.
Mm.
I would love to be on that water and in the sand and listening to the ocean roar or watching the sunset or the sunrise. I mean, that was so amazing, just to be able to get away and collect my little rocks and, just do things where I just feel free.
Mm-hmm.
Just go run in the water, and that's so important to be able to have an escape.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why people go on vacation, just to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off the cell phones. I mean, these cell phones and stuff, a lot of people is really addicted to these phones. They can't leave these things alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why sometimes the vacation places say, don't bring none of your instruments with you. Don't bring none of your technology. Do without it. Just leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you can get back to nature and connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so what do you do for relaxation or meditation or to get away? What do you do?
Well, it is a little difficult because I have a child now who has a lot of trauma. I just can't leave her with anybody. But there are times when I say, okay, we're just going to, like this past week, I told my daughter, I said, we're just going to have a mental health day. We're just going to sit here, relax. For me and her, we like to watch Corey X Kitchen. I mean, he is funny. He is like, I mean, laughter is really good medicine.
Yes,
and he is amazing. So that's what we did for our mental health day. We sat on the couch and we watched Corey X Kitchen all day.
Right.
So, I mean,
beautiful.
And it was relaxing, we cuddled, that kind of thing. And, so that's something that we like to do. Now, when I was on the East Coast, one of the things I like to do, because I don't like the beach over here, but I do like the beach on the East Coast. It's nice and warm. Okay. I get cheap crab, not the expensive crab over here. So, cheap seafood. The bands play on the beach all night.
Ooh,
So yeah, I mean, right. It was amazing. Over here, I find it's difficult to find a place of escape. But another one that me and my daughter both use is music. Music of all different kinds, and that is an amazing healing thing. Music can make you go insane, or it can actually make you just feel so much better. And so, especially when she was sick, I played nothing but, for us, I mean, I'm really, I'm into Christianity, so I played a lot of Christian music that was slow, stuff like that for her, relaxing and stuff like that. I'm a huge country music fan, so
all right.
Yeah, so I really love a lot of country music and stuff. And so, but I like music of all different kinds.
That's good.
My addiction, though, is another healing factor that I do. But I love playing video games. Okay. So I'm a huge. I don't care if it's a computer game, cell phone game. I love the Xbox Connect. I don't like the Xbox One, but I love the Xbox Connect. Okay. So I'm a huge video game person. And so those are some of my coping skills. I like to go on walks and listen to my iPod Touch, stuff like that. When I was in Dallas, I used to take my daughter to the second floor is all like really decked out for kids.
Oh, nice.
And so we used to take, I used to take her up there, and they have a movie theater for kids up there. And then they have computers that they can play on. And so I would let her go into the movie theater, and I would just sit there and relax,
Nice.
I found over the years there's different things that I do, but the only ones that actually really remain consistent, no matter where I'm at, is going to be the music and TV and just sometimes just sleeping and cuddling,
Yes.
that's one of the biggest things, because sometimes I feel myself going so much that I just need some sleep. I just need some rest.
You're right.
Just leave me alone. I don't want to do nothing.
Yes, that's good. We need that time. And so, it's been so nice talking with you, and we're going to stay connected. We're going to invite you back to the show because I know that you have a lot of knowledge on how to become an overcomer. I mean, you've been through so many obstacles in your life. So what was your saving grace? When did you become an overcomer, and what brought you to that place? Did they have you on medication while you were going through what you were going through, or what happened?
So I was on a lot of medication when I was in social service custody. At 18, I said, cold turkey, I don't want no more medication. I cut myself off on all of them. Now, I recognize that many people can't do that, but for me, I needed to do that. I went from being really, really skinny to being on medication. It brought me up to 250 pounds. And that was at 15 years old.
Wow.
And by the time I was 18, I was so upset. I just cut myself off on all of them. Yes. And then on top of that, I had gotten pregnant with my daughter too. So I didn't really want those drugs in my system.
Yes.
I feel like for me, the saving grace has always been God, right?
Yes.
I've always had a personal relationship with God. I can't tell you the first time I ever got saved because it's just my grandmother. It was instilled in her, and she instilled it in me. So I always grew up with it. We always went to church. We always went to Bible study and that kind of thing. But for me, that personal relationship with God is something I can't even remember the very first time I got it. I just know that I've always had it.
Beautiful.
And so even when I was suicidal, like the last time was like when my oldest daughter was 3, and I had been cutting on myself for years. And I remember this personal experience where I took a sharp knife because I was like, okay, I'm going to just cut the vein this time. And I was like literally trying to cut my vein and cut my arm, and the knife wouldn't cut. And I remember God just telling me, he's like, that's enough.
Man.
And I was like, that was the last time I ever cut on myself,
Man.
When he said that's enough, that was it. It wouldn't cut. I kept trying to cut.
Wow.
And it wouldn't cut. And so I've never cut on myself again. But I remember that thinking to myself in that moment that especially when you have children, you have somebody else that you have to fight for. You can't be selfish anymore.
Yes.
If you choose to give birth to that child, then you are choosing to raise a life and have an influence on that child.
Yes.
And even though my daughter's father got custody of her, I still wanted to strive to be able to have contact with her.
Yes.
And then when I got raped, I was just like, well, dang. So it was like, then I have another little person I have to fight for, and it took me a good 5 years to deal with the rape of my second child.
Man.
But over here in Vancouver, Washington is when I actually dealt with it. And I have been fighting for her ever since.
Man.
So, yeah. But for me, that's what it's always been. When you feel the presence of God, I don't know how many people have felt it, but it's like a somebody holding you in your arms.
Man.
So
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much for sharing your story.
Make sure we ask her where we can get one of the books.
Yes, yes. And thank you very much for coming on to the show. We will invite you back because I know that you will help enlighten a lot of people to the things that's happening in this world. And like you're the very first one that have written a book about circumstantial depression in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know this disease or illness or sickness or whatever they call it, this is plaguing our planet right now in enormous numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like the living dead is out there walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a lot of crazy things and actions. I mean, because you don't know who, what folks is thinking out there. I mean, we just dealing, and I told my children this years ago, this reminds me what we're living in now. We're living in a hospital without any walls, windows, or doors, and people is just, the patients is just walking around freely, doing whatever they want, whenever they want it, and how they want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it seems like. And we don't have very many doctors, therapists, or anything that's out there to help these folks. So people like us that's been through it,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand it, we want to help. Because it makes me very sad to see someone out there on the street mentally ill, not knowing. And it's just sad that that's the state that we're in. I mean, a lot of the people that is out there that's homeless, they're mentally ill. They can't make good decisions for themselves. So somebody's going to have to make these decisions for them. And it takes people like us that's been there, and we've gone through it. And I would like to share her book. The title of it is Caged and Locked. And she will give you the instructions on where you can purchase the book.
Yes.
And she will let you know.
So the title of it is Caged and Locked, My Personal Experience with Circumstantial Depression. And this book is available wherever books are sold. But if you want to purchase it on my website is officialuccp.com. That's www.officialuccp.com. But anywhere books are sold, you can actually request the book because it is a print on demand, and they will order it for you. It should be in their system.
And she also have an ebook, right? Where
Yes, there is an ebook as well, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere books are sold. Any bookstore worldwide, they should have it.
Yes, yes. And if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they be able to reach out to you?
They can get in touch with me on www.officialuccp.com. That's www.officialuccp.com.
All right. And I paint rocks, and it's a form of therapy. And so I wanted to give my guests one of my hand-painted rocks. And they said these very spiritual. I mean, feel this rock. See what you think about it.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yes, and the reason why I chose the rock is because the rock is going to be here forever.
Right.
It ain't going nowhere.
Exactly.
So I chose this rock, and I just choose rocks. I'm walking down the street, I see a rock that I like. I will pick that rock up, take it home, wash it, let it dry, and just feel it in my hand, and then I paint it. And it's spiritual, and it's therapeutic just to be able to paint these rocks.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And the last one that I painted, I wanted to share this one. My daughter said it reminded her of an alien, but I found this rock, and I just took my time painting it, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I said, wow, I love it. This is the last rock that I painted. I put some jewels on there. My daughter said it looks like an alien, but these eyes were already indented on there. I thought it was amazing.
That's cool.
Yes. So thank you. And is there anything that you would like to say, some of your last words or comments on the audience that's watching? Is there anything that you would like to say?
I just want to say that if anybody out there is going through any kind of depression and they are feeling suicidal or anything, don't give up, because there's always another day, and I guarantee you this too will pass. So if you hold on and you keep going through life, you'll find that the storm that you're going through will also pass. So if you're feeling suicidal, don't give in to those feelings. So
thank you so much, my lovely sister. I am so happy and I am so proud of you to be able to share your knowledge, and you've written this amazing book. You're going to touch so many people's lives. We appreciate you, and God bless you. And thank you for tuning in to What is a Little Girl Supposed to Do? And everybody have a Merry Christmas. And she would like to share, her and her mother, they're doing an event in February for Black History Month. She designed clothes, and she's going to be, I'll let her tell you what she's going to do.
yeah, so we're doing a Please Don't Die Black Man fashion show, and it's going to include African Americans who were instrumental in the fashion industry all around the room, portraits of them, and powerful, uplifting clothes that are dealing with Black history. And so you can get tickets on pddbmfashionshow.eventbrite.com, and that's pddbmfashionshow.eventbrite.com. And so it's gonna be really good. So we invite you guys to come out and help us uplift and celebrate Black History Month, because it is really important. I don't think many people out there could actually name at least 5 people before 1980 who were instrumental in the fashion industry. So, yeah, come out and support us.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, the audience. We appreciate you, and we love you. And everybody have a great Christmas and Kwanzaa. It begins on December the 26th.